Parish President remarks report. Parish President Jewell.
Thank you, Chairwoman. All right, we're going to get started. We had a little event last week. A winter snowstorm blanketed our region with historic amounts of snow, and I think it was a learning experience for most of us, as we have never seen snow and ice like this, quite like this before in South Louisiana. At least no one alive had seen it before. Here's a brief overview of how we prepared and reacted to the Arctic blast. So first was the preparations. Forecast prompted EOC to prepare for the winter storm in the days leading up to the event. Our team sent situational reports to EOC staff officers, parish administrators, and industrial partners to prepare them for the incoming storm. Our government buildings, public works, and recreation, as well as animal control teams, prepared by spreading sand wherever they could, weatherized their facilities, and as well as park bathrooms, and started assisting in creating a warming shelter for residents should they need it. Our waterworks and wastewater teams also checked their plants and facilities to ensure that clean water would be available and that wastewater could be handled. On Sunday, we held hazardous weather briefings with EOC staff officers, parish administrators, and a separate briefing for industrial partners. In the Sunday briefing on the 20th, in their Sunday briefing before the 20th, the National Weather Service forecasted 1 to 3 inches of snow with a light, what they called a light glaze, less than 1/10 of an inch of ice for St. Charles Parish. Obviously, ice was a big concern because that's when we tend to see the power outages with branches and trees falling onto the power lines. Additionally, they said that a large swath of 10 to 12 inches was exceedingly unlikely. We did have local meteorologists start sounding that alarm a little bit earlier. But again, we always focus on the National Weather Service's forecasts. We do pay attention to what the news is saying, but that is the one that we will usually send out to the residents on how to prepare. The EOC officially activated on January 20th at 6 a.m. EOC staff officers and personnel remained on site through the duration of the event. Parish staff prepared and responded as necessary. On Tuesday, January 21st, snow began to fall near dawn and did not stop until dusk. The EOC recorded 8 inches of snowfall, and many areas of the parish saw more. I personally saw about 11.5 to 12 inches around my yard, and since I was in such disbelief, I went into other people's yards and measured theirs as well. They all read the same, so it wasn't just something about my yard. By noon, several elevated roadways were closed by DOTD due to icing, including the Hailbox Bridge, I-310, and the DeZalmans Bridge, as well as other elevated overpasses within the parish. The EOC continued to monitor and push out information as necessary. Winter storm, and then post-storm on Wednesday, Public Works started clearing roadways when the sun rose on the 22nd. They began work on LA 3160. Remember, that's where our West Bank yard is. That's where we did some of our testing to figure out if the machinery that we had could get the job done. And then after that, they moved on to these connecting roads between River Road and 3127, like LA 3142, which is obviously impactful for industry near Taft. They also began by clearing paths to any nursing homes, especially Paul Mallard Road, to the hospital, Ormond Boulevard, Ashton Plantation, and they also started tackling the bridge. That was a big challenge, and I'm going to tell you that if it were not for our guys on that bridge, it might still be closed right now, because those guys got up there and they really worked their tails off nonstop. And after they finished with the bridge, actually we had people working all over, but they finished with the bridge, and you could see they went up and worked 310. Here's a picture of the bridge, and you could see that's Ricky Roussel on the front end loader. He's dumping snow off the side of the bridge. But the entire bridge was blanketed with about a foot of snow, and on the sides, upwards of 2 feet of snow with the snow drifts. So there was an incredible amount of snow up there. But between Ricky on the front end loader and Brian Henry on the motor grader, on the road grader, they were able to get it done. We had some other crews, again, working in different sections, assisting DOTD with that work. Was there one before that, Sam? No, let's go back. You can see here, that's on 3127. That's Ricky again, clearing 3127. That's before he got to the bridge. And on the left is a backflow preventer that decided to break on us. A lot of the work that we've been doing over the years, due to a couple of freeze events that we have, is really asking and encouraging these businesses with backflow preventers to get them insulated. Because what happens is, if we have to go out and fix it, we will fix it. There's a benefit to us fixing it because we're losing that water out of the system, which is decreasing pressure and everything else. But we do also send the bill over to the company who we have to go out there and repair it for. But the water system, I will tell you, worked incredibly well. This is obviously an event like we've never had. We've had light freezes before. We've even had hard freezes. But this was several days of hard freeze with snow on the ground, which made it tricky getting to a lot of places. I know in one circumstance we reduced pressure just slightly, but not to where anybody could even notice. But our ability to produce water and meet the demand that was going from everybody dripping faucets and all the breaks and everything that was happening, we were able to stay ahead of it. So I just want to say big kudos to Greg Gordon, Ricky, and the entire Waterworks team, as well as our wastewater team, who kept all of that working just as well over there. So again, we continue to assist DOTD. We worked the I-310 ramps at 90. We worked Airline Highway, I-310, and we also worked some of the other state roads within St. Rose, Norco, and Destrehan. We'll go to the Muntz Pump Station. Got excellent news for our residents in Muntz. All permits, as I mentioned, are imminent, and we are going to be going out to advertise on February 6th for Muntz Pump Station number 1. We will have bids in hand by mid-March, and we will be coming to the council for their approval of the construction of the first pump station. So we're excited to see that progress. That's a rendering of what the first pump station will look like. So we'll be pulling, obviously on the Muntz side, we'll be going across CC Road and then up and over into the spillway. So excited for that project to finally get off the ground and get some dirt turning. All right. Over at Sunset, sea level is excavating the bottom of the canal and has dammed off the canal to pour the 3-foot thick foundation for the bridge, which is going to be 20 feet below sea level. So they're at a minus 20 right there in that photo, and you can see that first load of concrete is going in there to create that footer. Let's see. We're going to be doing this project in phases to keep the station available for pumping water while the project is underway. The steel beams you see on the right of the photo will be welded to the beams on the other side of the canal, making this a firm foundation for the Wasky Bridge that will support the 7 new bar screen cleaners. All right, going over to Wildcat Lane. Work at Ormond at Wildcat Lane is moving along. There were a few weather-related delays, obviously, last week, so the contractor is going to be periodically enacting a detour on southbound Ormond through February 14th while they get this thing tied in. The project to convert the 3 older dry pit stations to modern submersible stations on the East Bank is nearly complete, and we'd like to thank the residents for their patience while we've made these upgrades to improve safety and efficiency of those stations. Over 300 residents attended our Primetime Seniors Kickoff event. And that was on January 9th to celebrate the start of our new Primetime Seniors program. We saw many new faces, many of our RSV volunteers, and they were all excited to join us in this new program through the Department of Parks and Recreation. I think we had our first event. Is that on the next slide there, Sam? Our first primetime seniors event at the community center was held less than a week after that kickoff event, and that was both chair and mat yoga. They were a big hit. The first cultural outing at the LaFawn Center was postponed due to the freeze, but our primetime senior team is working to load the calendar with new events. February is already online, and there are events such as beanbag baseball, a bus trip, a dance, and a scam awareness seminar from the sheriff's office. The calendar can be found at www.scpparksandrec.com/primetime seniors. /primetime. For our residents who do sign up and give us their information, we will also mail them a copy of the calendar so they have a physical copy as well. All right. So sports registration is closed, but we do have late registration open. That goes through our booster clubs, and you can register for baseball, softball, t-ball, tennis, and track, and that's open through the 31st through your local booster club. So contact your local booster club to get on that late registration. Spring sports practices will begin in February, and games will be played March through May. Last but certainly not least, we have November sales tax numbers. November sales tax increased 5.7% in November for 2024, or nearly $200,000 from 2023. This puts us up 2.02% from 2023 to 2024. We have not received official numbers for December. I did see them. They're not official, and we were up in December too. So I'll share that good news hopefully at the next meeting. Last but certainly not least, remember the council approved a coastal strategy plan with Royal Engineering. While it wasn't able to make today's Parish President's report, I do have the information here of when that's going to be, and we're going to send out a press release and share this a bunch to get as many people there. But that's going to be Wednesday, February 4th, 5 to 7 p.m. Again, this is Coastal Restoration Strategy Public Meeting. So we want to hear from the residents about what they're seeing. I know that they've met with a lot of our council members and have met with the CPRA as well. That meeting is at the Edward A. Dufresne Community Center, 274 Judge Edward Dufresne Parkway in Luling. And again, we want to hear from our residents about what they want to see as far as coastal restoration goes. We want to make sure that we are hitting every single facet of coastal restoration. I know a big facet of restoration is sports, our fishing and our commercial fishing industries. So we want to hear from, what is that? Okay, might be wrong on mine. We're going to put this information out. Anyway, did I say, I said Wednesday, February 5th, right? And that's a Thursday, or is that a Thursday?
You said the 4th, but it's the 4th. The 5th is correct.
Okay. Yes. So again, we want to make sure that we're hearing from the residents about what they think is a priority for coastal restoration. This information is coming out, and it's coming up within the next week or so. So we're going to make sure we blast it out as much as we can so that our residents know. Again, it'll be at 274 Judge Edward Dufresne Parkway, and that's our community center.
Thank you, Parish President Jewell. Councilman Pile.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did get a request, and I understand this was an extraordinary cold event, but I did get a question from a resident on the East Bank. So if the bridge, if the Mississippi River Bridge is shut down, and it does, and it will, and it has, what do we do for a warming station on the East Bank? Have people missed something that actually happened, or can you enlighten us?
We have always done our warming shelter. I couldn't tell you what was done before I came in office, but we don't really have a great location of a parish-owned building on the East Bank to do a warming shelter, nor do we have the manpower to do both. It's incredibly difficult to do a warming shelter on both sides of the river. It takes it takes sheriff's office resources, it takes animal control resources, it takes recreation resources. So in this particular event, where we had a very good indication that the bridge would close, And in no prior freeze event did it close, except for one other occasion when there was a wreck on top of the bridge, and the Louisiana State Police decided they were just going to close it. We were able to get the bridge reopened in that case. That's why, in this instance, in all of our messaging, we told residents that if they wanted to come to the warming shelter, if they needed to come to the warming shelter, they needed to come on Monday. Because, and not only did they need to come on Monday, they need to be prepared to stay multiple days. Now, I'll tell you, we only had 3 people come to the warming shelter, and then 2 people left, so we were down to 1. And instead of, because I know there was a lot of hoopla on Facebook about me closing the warming shelter, but we were able to put that person in a better situation by working with the United Way, rather than me keeping a warming shelter open at however many $1,000 an hour open. So in the best interest of the parish tax dollar, we decided to close the warming shelter because there was no longer really anybody there, and really nobody could get there because we were telling you to stay off the roads at that point. So in every instance, we tell residents, if you need to come to the warming shelter, to get to the warming shelter. If there's an issue about actually getting to the warming shelter, we usually ask for residents to call the EOC to let us know that they have that problem, and then we work with the sheriff's office to get them there.
Thank you, President Jewell, for that very nice explanation. And it's interesting, we only had 3, period, 3. It's incredible.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, if you don't open it, you know, if you don't open it, you got 400 people who need it, and when you do open it, no one comes. But, you know, that's been, historically, we've had probably less than 10 people come when we open that shelter, but we know how things can change. But we do that because we want to make sure that we're helping our residents any way we can. Now, I will tell you, when we open it as a shelter of last resort before a hurricane, we tend to get a lot more people who will show up for that. But obviously, that's a different scenario than a warming shelter.
And in an instance like this, probably neighbors help one another and make sure that older people are okay. I appreciate your explanation. Thank you.
Yep.